Our setting is 30 miles northeast of Paris. The First Battle of Marne began on September 6, 1914, the end of the first month of World War I. Under the command of General Michael Joseph Monroy, the French attacked the right flank of the German First Army. This decisive battle saw historical events in itself, such as the first use of radio intercepts and automotive transportation of troops in wartime. However, it also saw the beginning of the end. On August 1914, Germany was boasting their victory of forcing 5 French armies to retreat following the battles of the frontiers at Lorraine, Ardennes, Charleroi, and Mons. Their next target was invading the neutral country that is Belgium. However, still testing if they could get any more luck defeating the French, German armies were now nearing Paris. The French government appointed General Joseph Simon Gallieni as the military governor of Paris. Never one to sit around and wait to be attacked, Gallieni expected the Germans to arrive at the capital by September 5th and began preparing for war. The French commander-in-chief Joseph Joffre provided Gallieni with Monroy's 6th Army. During this, head of the German First Army, General Alexander von Kluck, refused orders to support General Karl von Berlow's Second Army. Attempting to protect Germany's right flank from the French, Kluck ordered his troops to retreat the French Fifth Army, which was under the command of General Charles Larrenzac. On September 3rd, German forces crossed the Marne River. When French military governor Gallieni learned of this through radio intercepts, he realized France was just handed the greatest blessing they could possibly receive, and none other than from their enemy at war. They received an opening to attack and win the Battle of Marne. The French 6th Army had just been given the perfect opportunity to attack the German flank. Gallieni and Commander-in-Chief Joffre immediately began to plan an attack. On September 4th, Chief of the German General Staff, Helmuth von Moltke, had heard of Kluck's disobedience. This not only led to the loss of all of their resources, but has set the army into a trap across the Marne River. Moltke was terrified of an attack on the First Army's exposed flank, so he ordered the halting of the First and Second Armies' march into Paris. However, Moltke was too late, since Gallieni was fully prepared for war. He, Joffre, and Lord H.H. Kitchener, who was the British Minister of War, had gained total support for the French 5th and 6th Armies through the British Expeditionary Force, or BEF, which was commanded by Sir John French. On the morning of September 6th, 150,000 soldiers of General Monroy's 6th Army attacked the right flank of the German First Army. During the battle, a 30-mile wide gap between Kluck's forces and Berlow's 2nd Army had opened. The French 5th Army, under new leader General Louis Frachet d'Espéry, and divisions of the BEF ran in to fight the German 2nd Army. This fighting lasted for the next couple of days. On September 7th, Monroy reinforced 6,000 troops to the front and requisitioned Paris taxis and buses. This was the first extensive use of motorized transport in wartime, which is still praised today as the taxis of Marne. These troops helped the exhausted soldiers fight against Kluck's overextended army. Kluck quickly ordered troops southwest to meet Monroy's attack, losing contact with Berlow's 2nd Army to his left flank. On September 9th, after d'Espéry's 5th Army launched a successful surprise attack on the German 2nd Army, Moltke ordered a general German retreat. The First Battle of Marne claimed over 100,000 men on both sides. By September 10th, Allies followed by slowly pushing the Germans toward north of the Eisenach River. This was the location where the 1st and 2nd Armies dug in, beginning the entrenchment of positions that will last until the end of the war. Since the Allies continued checking on the Germans throughout the war, it made it one of the most decisive battles in history. Known as the Miracle of the Marne, the Allies' victory proved to be a key turning point in World War I. Following the battle, the Allies and the Germans tried to outflank one another in what became known as the Race to the Sea. Both experienced bloody and disgusting conditions in the trenches that lasted until 1918, the end of World War I. Events during the Battle of Marne showed the future end of Germany's two-front war strategy, the Schlieffen Plan, and that of the belief that the conflict that broke out in the summer of 1914 would be a short one. Even though the battle foreshadowed the Allies' future victories, it more importantly began the realization that this war was not yet over.
Before the second battle actually took place in late May of 1918, the German general Erich Ludendorff was convinced that an attack in Flanders which stretched from northern France into Belgium, was the optimal route for a German victory. He ordered a large attack further south to lure the Allied troops away from their current position, so they could slip in and capture the area and continue on their way with conquering land. This attack launched on the back of the German capture of Chemin des Dames, the Path of the Ladies Ridge, near the Aisne River in late May, which was the recent stage of a major German attack. This is commonly referred to as the Kaiser's Battle, planned by Ludendorff in the spring of that year. The 2nd and 3rd Divisions of the AEF, American Expeditionary Force, helped defend along the Marne River and on either side of the river town of Château-Thierry. This resulted in a rounded bulge on the western front, extending 30 miles wide at the base and further south about 25 miles right at Château-Thierry. With boosting from the Americans, a plan was devised to eliminate the enemy forces with 2 prolonged assaults from both the western and southern front. So in July, when it became known that the Germans would renew their assault in that area, it was decided that they would absorb the assault. This meant taking whatever the Germans had planned, tiring them out, and then counterattacking immediately after. The Second Battle of the Marne officially began on July 15, 1918, turning the tide in World War I. Our location is the Aisne-Marne sector, 75 miles northeast of Paris, a triangular area bound by Château-Thierry, Swissau, and Reims. In the early morning of July 15th, 23 divisions of the German 1st and 3rd Armies attacked the French 4th Army east of Reims, while 17 divisions of the 7th Army, with assistance from the 9th Army, attacked the French 6th Army on the western front of the city. The planning of these dual attacks were part of Ludendorff's attempt to divide and conquer the French forces, who were joined with 85,000 American troops and a portion of the BEF, British Expeditionary Forces, in Flanders. When the Germans began to advance after their initial artillery bombardment, they found that the French had set up a line of fake trenches with only a few troops defending them. The actual line of trenches lay further ahead and were unaffected by the bombings. This deceptive strategic decision was arranged by the French commander-in-chief, Philippe Pétain. As the Germans approached the real Allied trenches, they were met with fierce American and French fire. The Germans were trapped, surrounded, and suffered heavy casualties. This battle set up the Allies for a major counterattack they would launch on July 18th. In charge of plans for the counterattack was the Allied Supreme Commander, Ferdinand Foch. The attack commenced in the early morning on July 18, 1918, and was carried out by 24 divisions of the French Army, U.S. troops, and troops from Britain and Italy in 350 tanks straight towards the Germans. The French 6th and 10th Armies led that advance, pushing forward 5 miles alone. Meanwhile, the French 5th and 9th Armies had launched additional attacks to the western front. By the time the Germans ordered their retreat on July 20th, the Allied forces had driven them back from Château-Thierry to Swissau on the Aisne River. This effectively reversed all of the German advances made during the spring of 1918. The casualties were staggering. Germany lost 168,000 soldiers to death or injury, France lost 95,000, Britain 13,000, and 12,000 from the U.S. After the embarrassment at the Marne, Ludendorff was forced to call off the attack further north in the Flanders region, which he saw as Germany's best plan for being victorious. The Second Battle of the Marne marked the last large-scale German offensive of World War I.